Is it
Mhm.
possible that the different races came from different ETs, creators?
That's what I'm alluding to, is that, and what I mentioned in the beginning, that we're hybridized from various different species. We're kind of like, we do the same thing. Okay, if people don't believe this from a metaphysical, spiritual, philosophical perspective, look at pattern recognition. Look at data of things that have happened. What are we doing? We are beings of habit that are, and we have habit because every species has innate characteristics and innate practices. For example, monkeys, they groom each other. That's just one of the things that they do. And they have various different practices that are just ingrained in them. Okay. What do? We were created. What are we doing? We're trying to create. Where it's a pattern recognition that was built into us, where we are trying to do the same thing. We splice. We're doing genetic splicing. We're doing, we're practicing science where we're trying to breed different types of things together. We even do it in plant science and biology, you know. So we're just it's ingrained in us to create, and the same thing happened with our genetic code is, and we learned that from, other ETs are not our God, they're not our creators, but they definitely helped in our evolutionary process because we all share the same God. Even the ETs, we all share the same God.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so
Hmm.
let's go into the meditation. I want to make sure I really hit on the things that's really
Okay.
important.
Hmm.
So I totally believe in, it's something that is not completely new. This has been said
Hmm.
for some time that there is a power in group think, right? That you get enough people together and they are focused on one thing that, there's been some science behind it that we can make mountains move or, really
Hmm.
big things happen. So when you were saying that your guide told you the importance of or the influence that we can have on energy in regards
Hmm.
to meditation, a lot of questions. But let me see where I can start. The first question I have is there a particular type of meditation that you were either told to do or you've downloaded or that you do and you find
I,
effective?
I wasn't in my NDE, but after my NDE, I downloaded and was told um, a meditation when you're feeling like a need to connect is to hold, to kind of put your hand over your heart and say, I am what matters. I am what matters. And the reason being, I was like, I am what matters. That sounds pretty egotistical. Why would I say that? And I started thinking of semantics. Okay. I am, okay? I am, but also I am, okay? God is I am, and also what matters. What matters, we think of things that are important, but also in physics, what matters, matter. So I am what matters. So I realized, and sometimes my guides probably get frustrated because I need to have a reason. Well, why am I saying that? Well, what does it mean? Well, where did it come from? I'm always like, I'm the kid in class with the 500 questions before I agree to do
Me too. I'm right
so.
next to you. Like, come on, what?
So my guides kind of broke it down, and that's the reason why I am what matters. It's more emitting a frequency of the connection between physics, matter, what we're made of, the stardust, God, and matters, like the intention of the word that we've assigned matter to, which means importance. And then I am the connection between God and ourselves. and the fact and recognizing that we are extensions of God and many gods ourselves, and repeating that is more the frequency and intention of it is important to get us into that space. So that's one of the meditations that I downloaded after my NDE.
Awesome, awesome. And can I do that? Can I take that?
Yes, of
Are you
course.
sharing?
It's like it's like nothing is owned. Everything is collective. So
Awesome, awesome.
we borrow all the time from
Yes,
the
I like to ask first though. You see, I'm come out with a video. You're like, she's doing my meditation.
Well, I'm glad it's not mine. I'm glad it's free to go to the library and rent it out.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So then the next question is, all right, so we have our meditation. Is there more power in, as opposed to me, one person just meditating, is there more power in there being several people sitting here meditating?
Yes. Hmm.
And then in addition to that, before you answer that question, which you answered, um, do certain people, like, not to say masters, but do certain people who have really, for one reason or another, have more power in their meditation, like will be able to influence energy or matter more than others?
Yeah. Answering the last question, yes. Reason being is because you put in, I mean, you get out of it what you put in. If you're working on raising your feet, it's like being an Olympic athlete. You put in, your track, you're running every day, you're doing what you need to do, then you're more likely to win a race and you're more likely to break records. So it's kind of like that. So what you put into it, you get out of it, and you raise your frequency every time you set intention on it and live your life from that perspective. So then your prayers are gonna be more powerful. Your meditations are gonna be more powerful. As far as a group of people coming together, yes. Even the Bible says, when two or more come together, I'm right there with them. And there's like people look at all of these little things in the Bible and other scriptures and they think, oh, yeah, it's kind of like an elementary. This is what I've learned. This is what I've been told. They don't understand the metaphysical aspect of that. That's actually a lesson right there in that verse on the nature of physics and science, because it's energy. When you have amplified energy, then you have a better output. So when more people with amplified energy come together, you're going to have a greater output of the result that you're trying to create an intention for or to manifest. It's all like, you know, the ultra-religious world is against science, but God created science. And God created science. One of the reasons is so that we can be more spiritually in tuned. So, spirit and science go together. They complement each other.
Now, do you mean science in the way that it should have been, or the science that we currently have today? Like when you actually looking at what we are doing in science, you feel like that is complementing spirituality, or that it should? You
Well,
know what I mean?
that's a good question. To clarify, it should. But what I'm saying is that there are things in science naturally existing that speak to spirituality. Even scientists now, I guess maybe it's becoming more acceptable, but you can go and see articles now, like what I mentioned at the beginning. I was afraid to talk about what I learned about our consciousness being able to reach across universes and tap into other things. That would have been like, if I said that in a serious manner, people would have thought I was crazy. But now, science, seeing articles that scientists are discovering
Hmm.
that our consciousness can tap into other parts of the universe. So if you have to think, okay, how did a scientist do an experiment for that and find that out?
Mm.
So and again, this is my science brain, my questioning brain. So if a scientist is now, if scientists, quote unquote, are now saying that, this means they had evidence before that they didn't share. But to
Mm,
diminish our power, they just decided to say, well, that's woo-woo, that's crazy talk. To diminish our power and the fact that we could advance as individuals, they just decided to say, well, that's alternative thinking.
yeah.
So,
Fringe.
right, that's fringe. So now they're saying, I guess because it's acceptable now, and now they're saying, oh, yes, this does happen. Okay, well, I'd like to see the data that made that difference between then and now.
Mm,
And if they don't have it, it means that they knew it was there from the beginning, that they had this data from long ago, but just did not want to acknowledge it or share it. And it's the same
wow.
stuff that we already knew
Mm.
because the
Um,
universe is within you.
yes, 100%.
Mhm.
And then my next question is, because you're talking about our powers, and I'm really excited about this whole portion right here.
Mhm.
Okay, so tell me what are the powers that we like, like, I guess in that we use what, 10% of our brain? So is it 10% or is it less?
I think it's less.
Yeah, I think it's some ridiculous amount, right? So what are our powers? If we all came together and we were doing what we're supposed to, and we're evolving spiritually and then also the body physically, what wonders could we do from what you've gathered?
So I'm just only going to tell you what I was told or what was revealed to me, but I want a disclaimer that n- um, I may not have been, it may not have been revealed to me everything. I'm just telling you what's been revealed to me. We have the power of telepathy. We have the power to change energy, frequency, and matter. We have the power to create to manifest different outcomes when we come together or for ourselves personally. We have the power to tap into the Akashic records, which is like a record of time and events in the world. We have the power to access our spiritual guides and get information from them. We have the power to change physical matter into change physical matter into other things, alchemy. We have the power to cross dimensions, so manifest to come out of our physical body and into a spiritual vessel and back into a physical body again.
Mhm.
We have the ability to learn rapidly, like so to speak, I mean to learn things very quickly. We have the power to be multilingual almost instantly and learn different languages very rapidly and speak more than 7 languages all at once. Um, let's see what else.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so those are some of the things. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
The first thing I'm thinking about is how much people love sci-fi, fantasy, and we have Harry Potter and things like that, and heroes. And it feels as if the reason why we have that love for those type movies and those type stories is because that is us. Like that is our true reality. And part of us feels that. It feels that kind of like resonation, it's like resonates with that. Like so yes, I love that. And I'm also excited. The more I learned about NDEs and I hear all these stories, like everything that you mentioned, there are a few that are completely new to me for sure. You have a long list there, but a lot of them are mentioned in other NDEs and other people's experiences. When you were talking about how fast we can learn, I was thinking about, because I was just recently reading about Edgar Casey, how he would just put his book under his
Mhm.
pillow and automatically know everything in that book.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I believe I read something that also might have been a CIA experiment at one time too, that there were
Mm,
some experiments done that proved all of that. So, yeah, we have the ability to do those things. We so there's a deliberate plan. and a deliberate oppression to keep us away from our power because it is, unfortunately, the narrative and comfortable for the historical record of who we've been as a culture and what we've done. But if we get rid of all of that, we are this planet would be unrecognizable.
Mm,
We would be unrecognizable.
wow.
But
And
that's what we're coded for. That's in our genetic code. Mhm.
yes. And
Mhm.
on one hand, it's it's sad that we're not there yet, but on the other hand, I mean, looking at the grand scheme, the fact that we are eternal and time is just we just have forever to do everything. I
Mhm.
kind of love the idea. Like if you're writing a book and you're putting together a plot, this idea, kind of like Potter, where he's living under the staircase and he's feeling like everything is so sad, and then all
Mhm.
of a sudden finds out that he's the most powerful wizard in this wizard world.
Right. Mhm.
So it's very much like the human being,
Mhm.
from your perspective. It's like we think we're so small and so little, and
Mhm.
we are just magnificent. So that day when we finally see what we can do,
Mhm.
it's gonna
God
be
loves us. We're really special. We really are. We just have to believe that we're special.
yes, yes. Okay,
Mhm.
so the multiverse, another me who's this big name CEO.
Mhm.
um, so I do feel like I have experienced some of like I feel like I'm switching timelines more than probably the average person. I I don't know if it's just a thought, but I do feel like I am. But I'm just curious about the other versions. I've heard from other people that we can pull, if we get to a point of mastery, we can pull information or
Yes.
skills from our other selves. So if you could
Yes.
speak to that and maybe even say if you know how that we do
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
and our other selves affect our current lives positively or negatively.
Yes. Um, Now, yes, our other selves can affect our lives positively or negatively. So it's important for us to recognize that we are fractalized in other areas, and it's important um, for us to recognize that um, there is another aspect of ourselves. In meditation is where you can pull information from that other aspect of yourself. And mastering it is, again, every day diligently putting in time to seek it out, to understand it, to embrace it. And that's how you can master information and pull information from other aspects of ourself.
Okay. And um, and did you say they could negatively or positively affect us?
Yes, they can
Okay.
negatively or positively. If you Okay, so personally, if you see somebody who is stereotypically not behaving the way culture might define them as in this particular life, and let's say they're like completely identified differently,
Hmm.
sometimes, a lot of the times, it's because they're being influenced either by a past life or another version of themselves in another timeline. So that could be positive and that could be negative. So, yeah.
Oh my God. I knew past life, but this is exciting to hear that it could be another life that's just like,
Mhm.
hey,
Mhm.
I want you to go out and do.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting, interesting.
Mhm.
Um, and that brings up two questions. I'm saying I have a million questions for you. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
sure.
But let me know when you're done though, like, cause for real, I will sit here all night. Like you'll be like, I'm hungry, I
Mhm.
got things to do. So
Mhm.
literally when it's time, let me know.
Okay.
But okay, so how do you know how we can purposely move through timelines? Like I've heard some people say that we can do this. Is it possible? And
So
if so,
So we're different frequencies. So I would say to that, even if I know how to move through different timelines for myself, I don't feel confident in saying that I know how you should move through a timeline because you're a different frequency than I am. So it might be slightly different for you. But yeah, we can move through different timelines. But again, when people meditate regularly, they get those answers from their guides as to how to do that if they ask. Ask, seek, knock, and the answer will be given to you.
Awesome, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, every time I ask a question, I have another question. But
Mm-hmm.
past lives, okay, so do you agree that past lives are happening simultaneously? It's not really
Yeah.
past, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because there's no time on the other side.
Right.
So there's a lot happening. If you really just think
Mm-hmm.
about just those two things, we have different multiverse versions of us, and then we also have, and it's different from the past lives, right? The other, this is a
Mm-hmm.
lot. These are
Mm-hmm.
two separate different things. Okay. Um, I guess my question to you first is, have you experienced any of your past lives? And if so, how? Was it, through meditation or through
Oh
hypnosis?
yeah. Oh yeah. When I was younger, okay, um, I like would have certain, you know how you're like drawn to things that make no sense for who you are?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was younger, I used to be drawn to certain things that made no sense for who I was. For example, me as a child, when I was younger, I wanted to learn Celtic. Why?
Awesome.
And I was fascinated with the Celtic language. I was
Hmm.
fascinated with people wearing kilts and why. That didn't make any sense, for who I was and what my cultural background was. But it was a fascination. I listened to like Irish music, you know?
Hmm.
So there are things that pop through that indicate to us past life experiences. I was also told that before before I was, kind of acknowledged this, I was told that I was a royal in a couple of other lifetimes. And before I was told that, and I felt it. When I say told, I wasn't only told by my guides, but I was told by other intuitives,
Oh,
and
okay.
which didn't really know certain aspects of me that would pop through. So that, those particular things I recognized, that
Mm.
they were, you know, from a past life. So yeah, the past lives pop through in an interesting way, lots of different
Yeah.
times. Hmm.
And I think that happens for a lot of people. That's the one
Yeah.
way that is like without going to see a hypnotherapist, or I'm assuming that you can do this through meditation as well. Like you
Yes.
said, talking to
Hmm.
your guides,
Yeah.
that without, because we don't have the time, I'm not going to get into my own personal and other
Mhm.
ones I've heard, but this is something that I'm sure a lot of the viewers are like, oh yeah, I totally
Hmm.
get that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome,
Hmm.
awesome. I'm gonna go from what I see here. I'm going into the ETs and the hybrids, right? So,
Hmm.
all right. So yeah, we have some ETs who love us, and like you said, are taking genetic material. Um, well, really, the biggest question I have to ask you is, what do you think about grays? Because I had an experience with tall white grays that I still don't fully understand. I know it wasn't physical. I think it was in the astral, but I woke up with them surrounding my bed, and I was not okay with that. And either myself, I still don't know if it was me or some kind of protective energy, sent them flying, and then I woke up. But I've just never felt really comfortable with grays. But you have some people who are like saying that they're not all bad, that there are some that there's a lot of different species of gray, and that some are not malevolent. What has been your experience, if any, with grays and reptilians? If they're is it possible just to have good ones, or are they kind of ones you just stay clear of?
Well, I was going to mention this when we first started talking about you being O negative. I was going to say that because it kept coming through kind of strong that you had some gray ET influence, but I decided since we had just started the conversation not to go that
No,
hard.
no, go ahead. I don't. Go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, I
Yeah.
know enough. I know nothing. So like, as much as that's kind of freaking me out a little bit, I'm open to the possibility.
I think that you should definitely, and I'm kind of getting that you need to explore that and to stop being afraid. They're not, it's a part of it's a part of what came through you, and it may be the thing that came through you, what I was saying before, when you were born, and why you're O negative, because you're hybridized from them, so they're actually family. So don't be afraid. They're not trying to hurt you. And yes, there are some grays that are benevolent, and I believe that some of them, that they like us. Some of them like us because we're the same way that we like teacup poodles, is that we're spiritual, we're interesting, we have feelings that they don't necessarily have. So we're kind of like, they feel, some of them feel endeared to us. So I don't be afraid. Now there are some that are different species of gray that not necessarily malevolent, but have made agreements with people here that seem like malevolent agendas for us, but not all grays are like that. And tall grays are good. The ones that
Yeah,
you're
they were
describing.
definitely tall. They were tall and like
Yeah,
white.
yeah. The ones
Um,
that you're describing are good, and those, from what I know, actually do exist as a species. You should try to tap into that and meditate about that because it's in your blood.
I'm kind of freaking out first off because I've been, I don't say bad mouthing them, but I've just really started to feel a certain way. Although I know that the ones I saw were different. That's why I always say they were not the regular grays. They were tall
Mhm.
and white. And I didn't know. Like I started feeling bad afterwards. I'm like, were they there to help me? Because I was asking for help. And then I just
Mhm.
sent them flying.
Yeah,
But
I feel a connection to Pleiadians, tall grays, and Arcturians. Those are the ones that I feel a connection to.
mhm. And my
Mhm.
mother definitely believes that. I mean, without question, my whole life, she's like, yeah, I think that you're an alien. Like she said it. She doesn't believe in aliens at all. She doesn't like to even talk about it. But she's
Mhm.
always said she felt like she was implanted with an alien something. So what you're saying is kind of freaking me out as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, she said this often in my life, and that she
Mhm.
had it, and she created an alien.
Mhm.
She gave birth to an alien, and
She
I've
may
seen
have
them.
had a contact event that she didn't remember, but is she O negative or is your father O
It's
negative?
my father's side
Okay.
with the O negative, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and not to stay on me too much longer, but just it's this is because this is freaking me out. When I've meditated a few times and I've seen grays, and I'm just like, why are they coming? Like I
Yeah,
wasn't
they're
asking for anyone
family.
to come.
They're family. You should really meditate more. And if they're coming through that easily for you, then there may be some messages, there may be some power that you're not tapping into, personal power, because you're too freaked out by them right now.
Yes, yeah, okay. So
Mhm.
we'll get off of that. But oh my God. All right. So you did say that there was one that you know of, one malevolent group. Are you comfortable saying which what alien group? Are you comfortable saying which one that is?
I don't know the name of the group. I would think they're of a reptilian race. Not really sure. But there
Mhm.
are some, there is a benevolent reptilian race that I learned about that I wasn't exposed to, but there's a benevolent one that was on Earth long ago, but there's a very bad one as well. So,
I've
which is
heard
called,
that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, which is the one that a lot of people think is kind of infiltrating our society now. So
Hmm.
fortunately, I haven't had any experiences with them. So,
Good, good, good. But I do want to talk about, I think I had a question about the planet that you went to. I thought that was so awesome. Oh, okay. Okay, so you went to a planet, there were translucent beings that were mostly white, but they had different colors.
mhm.
My first question is, do you know what the different colors signified?
No, and that if I
Um,
was told, I forgot that. I'd have to kind of dive in to kind of pull that out because I didn't know if it was like a, you know, racial thing or if it was like a mood type of thing or what have you.
mhm.
So, yeah, so I
Okay.
didn't know.
And do you know if they had free will? Because I remember stories of other people who have traveled to several different planets, and they said
Mhm.
some have free will and others don't so much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, and I mean, I have to ask this question so that people understand why I'm asking that question.
Mhm.
I've been told that there are certain species or races of other planetary beings that are kind of hive-minded, I guess is the best way to say it, and they kind of just
Yes.
do. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
This is a question I did have. This is probably the last question, I think.
Hmm.
In regards to being an orb, so I like that you show and you explain that at one point you were an orb and that there's a difference between what I consider I say the astral body, so I guess you
Hmm.
would say the spirit body, and the
Hmm.
orb. And I love that you mentioned the fact that if you are still in, and correct me if I'm wrong in what I'm saying, if you are still in the spirit body, then you have not let go of everything, I guess, in
Hmm.
regards to being a human. Because
Hmm.
there are people who have had very hellish experiences, and I've never heard of an orb being tortured or burned. Like
Hmm.
they're always in a physical form, even though it's
Hmm.
not human, it's not
Hmm.
3D.
Right.
So it makes me wonder. So I just want to just mention that 'cause I think it's very important that people know that if you're even possibly if it because some people say that these hellish realms don't exist, but if they
Hmm.
do, you can only experience it if you have not let go of this human experience. Like
Hmm.
would that make sense to you in some way?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. So one last question in regards to the future. So we have this new presidential, this in a few days, we're going to have
Hmm.
our new president. Um, what do you see in the future in regards to the timeline that we're on? Like you already mentioned that we're in a dystopian timeline, and I, as
Hmm.
a child, was very psychic, and I had dreams where that person was president, and my family and I were walking into concentration camps. I remember
Hmm.
it very clearly. So I'm just curious from you because I feel like you really do have a good percentage of accuracy in what you see. What do you
Hmm.
see, in the next 4 years for us in this country?
Honestly, I see people focusing more on their own personal ascension, and I see people manifesting a new world, which is beautiful and which is, higher vibrational. And, there is going to be some trauma and trouble and whatever else. But I feel like more people are going to feel it necessary to just work on themselves and to ascend, get to their ascension place. So that's pretty much what I see. And I think we should focus on the good stuff. That's what we all need to do.
And that's going to make it happen as well, right? If we stick on the negative, we're going to make it happen. But if we,
Exactly. Yeah,
okay.
if we stick in negative, we'll make negative happen. If we stick in positive, we'll make positive happen.
Okay. Well, that was my last question, Elle. And I mean, I thank you so much. Like, this is truly an honor, truly an honor. So to close off, tell people how to contact you if you do anything new or if you have a book, and then your take-home message.
Um, I would say my take home message is you're out of time. You have to do the work to ascend personally. You have to do the work to be the best spiritual version of yourself. So that would be my message. Um, and if anyone wants to reach me, they can email me at the words altogether less than the number 1% spelled out 1111 at gmail.com.
Perfect. And do you have a book or anything that you want to promote?
They can also go to the ascendinginstitute.com.
Awesome, awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, Elle. Like, this is really, truly an honor for me. I thank you so
Sure, no
much.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.